This is Katie, co-host of Coffee with Keith and Katie. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Madeline, host of Crowned and Dangerous here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come back to check out my show, Crowned and Dangerous, where Jessica and I talk about our time in the pageant world. A new show comes out bi-weekly on Thursdays. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Crowned and Dangerous. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Welcome to Beauties and Headcanons, where we're nerdy, and you probably are too. I'm Lindsay, and I'm here with Emily and Elisabeth, and we're here to talk nerdy to you about an awesome nerdy actor that has been making waves lately. So we wanted to not do our normal Aquaman movie review episode, and instead we wanted to talk about Jason Momoa, because he's been doing a lot lately, cross fandoms, and we've been able to see more and more of him as time has progressed in his acting career. So I thought it would be really fun for us ladies to get together and start talking about that. So he has had several roles that have kind of advanced him in his career. And so, of course, we do have Emily did the Aquaman, but we kind of each have a fandom where we were able to see a little bit more of him or had a chance to look into what he's been up to. And being from Milwaukee, very recently he actually came and visited where I live. I didn't get to see him, of course, because Milwaukee is a ginormous city. He did come and see the Harley-Davidson facility here in Milwaukee, and I thought that was really cool. There was a lot of pictures and photo bombs going on earlier this week. So I am excited to know that he came and visited us Cheeseheads here. And I'm so sorry, Emily, that you weren't here for that.
I know. I'm a little bummed, but, you know, yeah. So, I used to live in Milwaukee, but, you know, not anymore.
I mean, you
maybe
just
someday
left me
again.
here all alone. Oh.
I know. I feel so badly. You're not the only person I left behind.
I know.
So we
There's
want to
much
go back.
more important people you've left behind, but I can still add myself to that list. Anyway, so let's just start talking about Jason Momoa and hop right into it.
Yeah. So he was born named. Now this is from IMDb. Full disclosure. I didn't interview him. You know. So I just took stuff from IMDb because that's where we get things. Joseph Jason Namakahiya Momoa was born on August 1st, 1979. So he's gonna be 40 this year, guys.
Okay.
Man. He was born in Hawaii.
Good.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah, he was born in Hawaii. His mom is from Iowa, of mostly European descent. His dad is Hawaiian. And so he did most of his growing up in Iowa, and after high school, he went to college, started studying marine biology, and then eventually moved to Hawaii. And I don't know that if he finished his degree or not, but eventually, once he moved to Hawaii in his late teens, early 20s or so, he just kind of got spotted by a fashion designer and was like, "Hey, you should model," because of his stature. And after that, through his modeling gigs, in between that, he was actually working at a t-shirt store. Had no clue about acting or anything like that, but he found out about open auditions for Baywatch Hawaii in 1999 and got the role over 1,300 other people who auditioned. He was the one that they picked, the kid with zero experience. But, he fit the bill. He had the physique, he had the presence, so they picked him, and that was kind of his thing for a couple years. And then
I find it kind of interesting that his first role and now his most recent role has to do with the ocean.
Right? It is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've actually seen something where the title was, from Lifeguard to King of the Ocean. I've totally seen that. And
and it was an actual lifeguard too, back when he was in high school or something.
Well, and it's funny too because I even saw I wanted to really do my research. So I looked up a couple of episodes of Baywatch that he was in, and I might have seen a little bit of just him singing and
I saw a
dancing
bit
and
of
stuff.
it as well.
Sure, but did you notice he kind of just like fit in? Like
He did,
it's like they
though.
just
Yeah.
popped him off of a street and were like, "Here, we're going to have you do the scene," and it was so natural.
I know, and it's crazy because he like never sought to be an actor growing up. He always was into athletics. He actually wanted to be a professional rock climber. He wanted to be a hockey player, I think I heard. But then he broke his femur, and so that kind of died. And then once he healed up from that, he got really into rock climbing, which he still does to this day, and does it with his kids, which is fantastic. It's super cool because like that's how he stays fit and active, is he does rock climbing. He doesn't just go to the gym and throw weights around all the time. He just does rock climbing. So like that's his thing. And like it is really cool that he just kind of slid into the acting world and it just came to him, you know?
Yeah, just like it kind of just fell into his lap, and he's just kind of ridden the wave.
Yeah,
It's
literally, you know, so many waves, so many puns. Now, also to mention, because there's Baywatch, and then there's the King of Atlantis being Aquaman, but that wasn't his only stop at Atlantis. He played a role in the TV series Stargate Atlantis, which you've probably heard me talk about before because I love it
Right?
so much. Yes, it is near and dear to my heart. He played a role in that show as well, and so he not only worked as a lifeguard, but then he worked as a protector of Atlantis, and now he's the king of Atlantis. So it's just the progression, right? I think there's a meme about that.
It's a natural career progression.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a couple other pit stops along the way, but everybody has those.
And I wanted to say something interesting about how it seems like he's really been typecast. He's a bigger guy. He's fit. Some would say swoon worthy, but at the same time, he didn't go pursue acting. It came to him. So I feel like even that being typecast because of his physique has been a really interesting opportunity for him. We're going to talk in a couple minutes about what he's doing now and how he's advanced his acting career. But I think it's interesting a lot of times when classically trained actors get typecast into doing a role that is perfect for them, and then they just continue to do the exact same role, or you get the feeling that this particular person is just that way in real life, in normal life. So they're barely playing an actor at all. They're barely playing a character, right? And I sometimes get that feeling from just his physique, his stature. I was listening to an interview a while ago where he was talking about how he is getting older, so he doesn't do all of his own stunts anymore. But he has a couple of guys who, have the same forehead as him and really work hard to do the same movements as him, because he knows a lot of times his characters aren't so much about the words, but more about the movement, physique, the way they carry themselves.
True.
So I thought that was really cool that he knows that about himself. He knows that about the characters he's portraying, and that it's important for his stunt doubles to be able to do that as well. I really appreciate someone who understands that about their careers themselves, the people they play, and what they're presenting.
Well, not only that, but he's a huge advocate for stunt people to be getting their own awards themselves for their roles in movies, because what they do is really, really hard.
I didn't know that.
And he has said a number of times on his Instagram account that he's just so appreciative of all the people that are stunt people and who, have to do all of that and like literally get injured because of what they do, but they don't get any recognition because they're not the name actor, but they should.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Well, it makes sense because they're really putting themselves, their bodies, their whole life sometimes on the line, doing all these dangerous stunts, and not only doing them, but they're trying to follow the movements and look like they're still the actor as well. So, it's like two different things that they have to balance. So, I totally agree with them. They definitely need to have some sort of recognition.
Yeah, there's a lot of skill involved in it, and I think it's definitely an underappreciated art.
Yeah, I'm always very impressed and always kind of looking for those stunts when you can definitely tell someone someone else was doing it, or when they seamlessly make those transitions. So
Yeah.
I definitely get that it's an extremely hard thing to do, and that they definitely don't get enough recognition. Let's talk a little bit about Jason Momoa's bodyguards too, then, so we can talk about who he appreciates.
Oh, yeah.
There was that meme that we all saw, and we're making fun of too, that he has bodyguards that just aren't necessarily as tall as
or
he is.
as bulky. Yeah. You might, some of you guys, listeners, might have seen the meme where it's Jason Momoa's in the middle. There's these 3 or 4 guys in black suits, white shirts, and black ties around him. They have the sunglasses and the earpieces. They look like they're the Secret Service, right? But there's Jason Momoa like a foot taller than them in the middle. And so he's just like casually walking, and there's these guys like with their earpieces looking around all suspiciously. And
well, and of course, not to discredit them either, but the meme says something about how it looks like they are the bosses that you have to beat before you get to beat him. Like if you were playing a video game, or
like they're the mini bosses.
They're the mini bosses before the real boss. Yeah. Like, I'm sure that they are very capable of handling themselves.
yes.
It's just that he's such a big guy. He,
Right.
I'm sure he could handle himself pretty well too, but he's got to be protected somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's like liability kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you guys heard this story, but in 2008, he was actually like assaulted by somebody at a bar with a broken beer bottle. That's how he got the scar on his eyebrow. He had to have like a bunch of stitches and facial reconstructive surgery because of it.
Like, how dumb do you have to be to go after somebody?
Like, really? You'd go after him?
Well, and then the guy still claims that he didn't do it either. He's still tried to maintain his innocence.
I wonder how he would have gotten those injuries then.
Right.
It's not like he just did it to himself.
Well, and then let's go back to Stargate too, because I know that was kind of what he was doing when all of that was happening, and I know that they sort of put a few things into the plot line to talk about the eyebrow scar, and then also something about his tattoos too, right?
Yeah, so he started with Stargate Atlantis in 2004, so he would have finished up, there were 5 seasons, but he was in 4 of them. So I think the scar thing happened afterward.
Okay.
Because that was 2008, but the tattoo thing is really cool. So I love it. It's in one of the early episodes that he's in the series, in season 2, and the episode opens where they're in like this pub or some kind of like gathering place where there's like dining tables and a bar or something like that. And he's sitting at this dining table with his left forearm out, and there's a guy giving him like a primitive tattoo on his left forearm, and that's the one that you see like all the time, the triangles all in a row. That's the one. And that's that episode just kind of explained like, oh, suddenly he's got this tattoo now. Where did that come from? Well, he just casually got it from a friend of his in a bar. It's fine.
Okay. And as long as that like went along with his character, that his character was someone who would do something like that.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Well, his character also has this signifying tattoo on his neck, which he doesn't actually have as a tattoo. Okay. It was just part of the soldier's marking that he got on the planet that he's from in Stargate. And so that was one of the markings to show that he was a soldier of a specific rank and order and that sort of thing. So he and a few other characters that you see sporadically in the series do have a tattoo like that on his neck, on the I think it's the left side of his neck. But the arm tattoo thing was just kind of a random like, hey, he's just the kind of guy that gets a tattoo sometimes.
Okay, so what did he do after Stargate?
So yeah, after Stargate, he did a couple of roles intermittently on some shows and stuff, but he also got cast as Conan the Barbarian and as Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones, kind of simultaneously. They were like back to back to each other because the same casting director was for both of them. And so he auditioned for Game of Thrones, and he met the casting director, and that was the same guy for Conan the Barbarian. So they just kind of, boom, happened.
I thought it was very interesting that when he actually auditioned for Khal Drogo, that he actually performed a haka during that audition.
Yeah, which is I actually learned a little bit more about that. It's a haka is a special war dance, and his father, the Hawaiian father, taught him the haka because it's a traditional like sacred war dance of the Polynesian people. And so that was a very special thing to him, and he taught his kids. And you can actually find him a video of him doing it on his YouTube. He recently started a YouTube about a month ago, and in coinciding with the release of Aquaman, and so you can see him doing that dance with at the premiere of Aquaman.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is
'Cause
really
I
cool.
thought I remembered seeing something about him doing it at like one of his friends' weddings. Something like that.
Wouldn't
What
surprise
does
me.
the dance mean? Is it a celebratory dance? Is it a...
I think it might be like a
It's usually a war dance
yeah,
done by
like a
the
preparation for war kind of thing, like
yeah.
get all of the soldiers in.
I know that New Zealand rugby team, they typically or is it soccer team? I can't remember which one, but they usually do a haka before
cool.
their games.
And then what about...
Yeah, because the
Sorry.
the haka kind of originated in New Zealand, and it's kind of spread through other Polynesian cultures too.
What about that dance made it so that he was right for the Khal Drogo character?
Well, Khal Drogo. Well, the Dothraki people are a very primitive people. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones, they're a very primitive group of people who they live like vagabonds, and a lot of their culture is wrapped into dancing. Everything they do, even if it's like fighting or if it's like riding their horses, they have a big culture around horses. But everything they do is like kind of intentional in dancing and that sort of thing. So they have very ceremonious dances that they do.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
I really loved him in the role of Khal Drogo. I haven't read the books yet, so I don't know like how his character is portrayed in the show, if it's accurate to the books or not. But the way he did the role, like his presence and everything like that, like he really had this kind of noble presence, like
Yes.
like I am the leader.
Very noble and
I am the leader.
Imposing
And,
because he knows who he is and
yeah,
who everyone else is and where everyone belongs, kind of thing.
yeah. And of course, as with many, many characters on the show, he ended up dying. I think he actually died in the first or the beginning of the second season. It's been a while since I watched it.
Oh, I want to say it was... Oh, shoot. I don't even remember. I don't want to say specifically because I forgot.
I know. It's been so long since I've watched like the first couple of seasons. But I know that he died. He died along with Daenerys' son that she was carrying. And I remember he made a very brief reappearance on the show, like fairly relatively soon after they died, during this like whole hallucination thing that Dany was experiencing. And like she just comes upon this tent and she enters the tent and there's Drogo
I'm like,
holding a baby.
I got so excited when I
oh
saw
my
that.
God. I was like, oh. And she like, kneels there and she greets him and, she spends a little time with him, but she's like, this isn't real. And she had to leave. And it was heartbreaking. Oh my gosh. It was so heartbreaking.
I have something super awesome to share with you about when he got that role and when he first met Emilia Clarke. I don't know if you guys know the story. Oh, I love this story. Okay, so when they first met each other, so Emilia Clarke, I don't know who was arriving at the hotel, if he was there first or if she was there first, but they both arrived at the hotel, and he like sees her across the way and just shouts, "Wifey!" and runs and gives her this humongous bear hug. Like, just picks her up and gives her a hug. Like, they had never met before, but he knew that like she's the one, to be his wife. And so he's just like, oh, hey, I'll just, pick you up and take you away. It's awesome. He's just a big teddy bear. It's great.
Okay, so we know Stargate Atlantis and we know Game of Thrones. At the same time, he was doing Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of digging because I honestly did not see Conan the Barbarian, the one that he was in, but I do know that it's one of his few roles that he does not have a beard in.
Oh.
Which is, kind of a weird thing to mention, but everything else he has some kind of facial hair, except for like Baywatch.
He didn't have one in Baywatch either.
Yeah, like Baywatch, I don't even know if he could grow facial hair in Baywatch, to be honest. But I mean, ever since then, he's always had some kind of beard or goatee.
Okay.
And so Conan, they have him clean shaven. and it was the same casting director as Game of Thrones. And so the kind of thought behind Conan the Barbarian is it is not a remake of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s, but a reimagining from everything Conan the Barbarian, from like the comics and everything written by Robert E. Howard. I think that's his name. And everything that has been written about Conan the Barbarian, and they just kind of drew from multiple sources and recreated it into something completely different. And it's interesting. Also, Ron Perlman is in the movie for a brief minute or two,
I do love him.
which is pretty cool. And it's like it did not do great in the box office. That's why I don't remember
Right.
it. Like, it came out in 2011, and I don't know.
It probably came out at the same
was.
time as something else. So we
It probably did.
enveloped
It probably got overshadowed by something that people liked a lot more. So, whatever. But Jason Momoa, he used 3 words to describe Conan the Barbarian, and he said it's live, love, slay. And I feel like that kind of describes a lot of his characters that he plays.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the thing with Conan the Barbarian is people were probably expecting it to be too much like
Yeah.
the 80s
Oh,
movie, which
you're probably
I mean,
right.
it's probably a good thing that they did not like follow it too much, because I mean, I love the original Conan the Barbarian, but it just drips with 80s cheese.
Ugh.
It's the kind of thing that you just watch, expecting it's going to be incredibly cheesy and almost cringeworthy, but you still enjoy it because, it's from the 80s. It's fine. You don't
Right.
expect.
I watched
that.
Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger probably once a week for a long time because my dad was a huge fan. He loved Arnold Schwarzenegger. He had several different people who, if they had a movie on the television, if we were watching it, whether we liked it or not. And Conan the Barbarian and Conan all I think there's 3 of them. We watched every single one. So.
Oh boy.
So after that one, we also got Frontier that is currently on Netflix. I watched a few episodes. It's a little hard for me to get into, but I did think it was really cool. The character he plays, Declan Harp, is half Irish, half Native American, which is interesting because Jason himself is half Hawaiian, half European. And I think it's kind of cool that they really play on that too. Even in the first couple of episodes of Frontier, they refer to him as, "Oh, well, I heard you were half Irish, or I heard you were Irish. You're an Irishman." And the gentleman he's talking to said, he goes, "Do I look Irish?"
Like, really?
But they do definitely play off of the Native American physique, the way that he is large and in charge of what he's doing. So it's a really cool thing to see him do. I do feel even in just the 3 episodes that I've watched, there's a lot of opportunity to really be a much more developed character. He does still play someone who's kind of vulgar and rough, but they're already talking about the backstory and this tragedy that's happened in his past. So it's very cool to have the opportunity to see him develop a character for a longer period of time. We didn't get a whole lot of him in Game of Thrones. I don't know how much his acting ability was prominent in Stargate, and I really haven't had a chance to see Aquaman yet. But even in those 3 episodes that I've seen so far of Frontier, I'm excited to see him do something that we're not used to seeing him.
Yeah. Well, and also with Frontier, he is directing it as well. So he has a pretty big hand in the whole show itself, which is really cool. He's kind of trying to develop himself into a filmmaker actor, combo. Like, he wants to make his own things, have original content made by himself, it seems like. So, which is really cool. I know he has a partnership with Carhartt, so he's been making a series of short films using some Carhartt stuff, especially with his rock climbing and outdoorsiness and that sort of thing. He's very a rugged outdoorsman. So, like, in that aspect, he definitely gets to use his rugged outdoorsiness in a lot of his roles. I do want to mention with Stargate, you mentioned you're not sure, how his acting skills got played out. in Stargate, he does go through some development, because when he first entered the show, he was very cold and not exactly interested in getting to know people. And as he got to be a better member of the Stargate team, he started to open up to people. He even had some glimmers of romance, but nothing like that actually came to be anything. But somebody that from Firefly, that they kind of showed a little bit of potential romance with, was Jewel State, Kaylee from Firefly. She played a doctor in Stargate Atlantis, and so they kind of had a little like, ooh, we might be into each other, but we might not be, kind of thing.
Will they? Won't they?
So yeah, it's well, and they even came up and said to each other point blank, like, "Oh, I kind of am into someone else. Oh, I wasn't into you at all. Awkward." And you clearly can tell that like they both were kind of into each other, but like
He's not willing to commit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of but yeah, he eventually kind of opens up and like tells his backstory to his teammates and that sort of thing, and eventually comes to like really love being a part of the team at Atlantis and really kind of owning the Atlantis role that he plays there. So yeah, it is a cool development. He had 4 seasons in the show out of the whole 5 seasons of it.
It's very interesting because that's almost kind of similar to the development of Khal Drogo, because he starts out as this very tough kind of not that he doesn't speak, but like he doesn't speak often,
right?
Kind of
only when
persona.
It matters.
Yeah, exactly. And then he marries Danny, and it's very kind of a tepid relationship between them. But then like she kind of makes some steps toward him, and they really connect, and they become very, very close to each other. Like they're actually like in love.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a really, really nice development of that character. So I feel that he does have, a lot more potential than just this, manly, rugged, tough guy thing.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, guys. I was trying to say that.
I agree, Lindsay. You totally. I think that came across, and like it's good that there's other roles than just Frontier that is demonstrating him doing that too, because it kind of shows even back in the Stargate days, he was like in his late 20s or so, probably. Let me see, a little bit of math here, maybe early 30s. So I mean that he was still pretty young. No, he was in his like 20s, and like in his
late
20s.
Yeah.
Moving on from there, like now he's in his 30s and he's doing it at a deeper level.
When you are someone that is his stature, the physique, the kind of warrior status comes across very quickly. So having the chance to meet him, having the chance to develop the character in each role we've seen him in, that's really what's so intriguing about him as an actor, as a person, as a producer, director. I'm excited to see where that's going. He does have that production company that he is working on. What's it called again?
It's called Pride of Gypsies, and that's also his Instagram handle as well. So Pride of Gypsies, all one word. That is his main social media outlet. I follow him on Instagram, and he posts pretty regularly. I'm pretty sure it's actually him, but it could be somebody else. I don't know. You never know with famous people. They have people for everything, and that's fine because they're busy. But then they just started the YouTube channel. It's just called Jason Momoa, but you type in Pride of Gypsies and it'll bring him up as well. But there's only 6 videos on his real YouTube channel right now, and he has like a bajillion followers. So make sure if you do try to find him on YouTube, make sure it's the one with only 6 videos on there, because he does not have very many started out there yet. But those videos on there are actually kind of cool because it's like some of them are following his little like tour after the Aquaman debut, and others are just like him hanging out with some friends. So it's kind of cool. He did.
Speaking of Aquaman.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Aquaman, let's talk about Aquaman.
So I haven't seen the actual movie yet, but I am of course very, very familiar with the comic version. So when I do see it, I'm going to be very interested to see what similarities they keep, and what how they depart from the actual comic book. Because I mean, obviously, physically, he's very different.
Yes.
But from what I've seen with little snippets with Justice League and stuff like that, I feel they've probably gotten his general character down, but I'll have to see his actual movie too.
Yeah, and I've seen the movie, but I don't know anything about the comics or the animated show or anything like that. So, I thought the movie was pretty well done, and I enjoyed him as, he's almost on the verge of like anti-hero. He like doesn't want to do it, and then like he's encouraged to do it, and he's like, I don't know how I can help because I'm just like a guy, sort of thing, and like, I enjoyed the movie though.
Well, that is very close to a lot of interpretations of Aquaman because he's, he is half Atlantean, so he is kind of on the outside a lot of the times. And later on, like, years passing with his character, he actually becomes quite reclusive and spends a lot more time in Atlantis running it instead of, spending time on the surface and working with the Justice League. So that is pretty accurate, I feel.
Okay. And so Aquaman, the movie Aquaman seemed to be kind of his like entrance into the official role of being Aquaman, right? Because in the movie itself, like he had only kind of done like casual helping people out here and there sort of things. And it wasn't until the events of the movie where he officially like claimed the title of Aquaman, I guess, or people like actually called him Aquaman and knew it was him.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times when you have an origin story, actors usually fall into the role then. There have been several characters who we know and love from Marvel, DC, other collaborations that don't have an origin story yet, and they've kind of had to do it the opposite way. So,
yeah.
Which honestly I kind of prefer, but that's just my own thing.
Yeah.
Now I do have a question. I'm not sure if you know, Emily, but is the movie Aquaman supposed to take place before Justice League?
It appears that way. I only say that because it seems like in Justice League, when Bruce Wayne approaches him, Arthur in the bar, it seems like nobody really knows that he's Aquaman.
Okay.
Okay.
So it seems like he's still kind of under the radar, incognito sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I was just curious because I had been reading about the Justice League movie, and I had heard that they were basically kind of hinting at Black Manta, becoming his enemy. And so I was curious if if that took place if Aquaman took place after Justice League, if Black Manta would come into play, or if maybe they're holding him off for another movie.
I'm not sure. Okay. Black Manta, honestly, I don't remember the name of the antagonist in the movie. I know that it's his half brother he's trying to like take Atlantis back from.
And then probably not Black Manta, unless they just changed his backstory.
I don't think they would do that. But so they could, but I would hope not. But there was another guy played by Willem Dafoe who could end up being Black Manta. I just don't remember what his name was.
Which, I mean, who doesn't?
All right, ladies, is there anything that we wanted to talk about as far as Jason's personal life? I know that he met his wife. We know that his wife now, Elisabeth, she was in the Bill Cosby show.
She was in the Cosby Show, yeah, way back when. And he first saw her when he was 8 years old on the Cosby Show. He was just watching the show at home, and he said, "Mama, I'm going to marry her." Oh, I know, she's great, right? She's great. And so he is now married to her, which also makes him Zoe Kravitz's stepfather.
And they have such a cool co-parenting lifestyle.
They do, though. I mean, like, Jason and Lenny Kravitz, like, are buds.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
They like just casually get along with each other, it seems like, which is really cool. Like, I don't know. That's awesome that they can make that work.
I mean, he seems like a very laid back, peaceful kind of dude.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. Like, that's the Hawaiian aspect of things, like just kind of take it as it comes, man.
There have been a couple of times in Frontier that I have heard characters say bro in regards to other people, and I keep wanting to figure out if that's historically correct or not.
I don't know.
Probably not.
But every time they say it, I'm just like, hold on a minute,
yeah,
guys.
I wonder if I wonder if that's a weird British thing. I don't know. Yeah,
Declan Harp
but yeah,
said
so
it once, and then one of the British guys says it once, and I'm just like, come on, guys, come on, bro,
figure this out. Yeah,
I
so
know he also likes to throw axes as well.
yes, he does like to
Which
do
is
that.
interesting because a couple of my friends actually do that as well. One of my friends actually works at like an axe throwing range, I guess you would call it.
So like
he actually
a
works
place
there.
where you can
And
just
so
throw axes casually as fun. That's
yeah.
cool.
And so, like, I think it was him that actually shared this video of him throwing an axe, and I was just like, "Oh, so that is interesting to know that he just casually throws axes, just willy nilly."
Yeah, he's just one of those kind of guys that he picks up hobbies like that. What else does he? He loves Harleys, as Lindsay mentioned. He visited the Harley Davidson factory facility museum in Milwaukee. He made an Instagram post about it and said, like, "Love you, cheeseheads." I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But so he loves Harleys. What's really cool about him personally, I found from following him on Instagram, is that he really loves to support like individuals that have a craft, like all of his jewelry comes from people who make them by hand. So like all of his skull bone rings and his like necklaces and stuff that he wears, those are all from people that like he has personally met. And it's really cool.
That's really cool.
Or like
he supports artists.
Yeah, he supports like people, artists, not companies usually. He does have a partnership with Carhartt, because he just supports that brand specifically. But so he also mentioned, like, people were wondering about his wardrobe in Aquaman and other stuff that he's done recently. He said basically anytime I'm wearing jeans, it's from the same guy. I'm like, that's cool. That's awesome.
That is really cool.
That's really awesome. And the boots that he wears too. He has like 6 pairs of boots from the same guy. I'm like, that's really cool. He likes to support like individuals with that kind of stuff.
What I think is so cool is that he's just so down to earth. Like, you don't get the impression of someone being as grounded as he is when you see actors and actresses in Hollywood that have made it. And you know their names, and so many people now know his name, know what he looks like, and he still seems like such a tangible, down to earth guy.
Well, and also, so along with his wife, he has 2 kids with her, a girl named Lola and a boy named Nakoa Wolf. And those 2 kids, like, they go rock climbing with him all the time. They just adore him, and it's kind of hard to tell them apart because they both have the same exact hair. So they both have this long curly hair just like Jason does. But the girl Lola is a little older, and the boy Nakoa Wolf is younger, so you can kind of tell that way. But now that the boy is getting older, I mean, well, you'll be able to tell eventually, but I think they're like, I don't know, 8 or 10 years old or something like that. So
just wait until he starts shooting up.
Yeah, man. Oh boy. Thanks for getting nerdy with us today. We hope you enjoyed our actor highlight of Jason Momoa from Baywatch to Aquaman. And if you have any other suggestions for us to cover, any actors, directors, music writers, filmmakers, anybody like that, we would love to take your suggestions and do a highlight of somebody in the near future. We want to kind of make this a continual thing on the show. So if you have suggestions, let us know, please, on any of our social outlets. We are active on those, so just let us know. So again, I'm Emily.
I'm Elisabeth.
And I'm Lindsay. And thanks for getting nerdy with us today on Beauties and Headcanons.